Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. I'm your host, Faizan with the prayer. May Allah keep you all safe, healthy and blessed. And may Allah hasten the appearance of Imam of our time, inshallah. Ameen. Today, the topic we will be discussing is related to Trump recent executive orders which are ongoing, and they have different dimensions related to different aspects, whether it's economics, it's politics, it's Gaza, or it's West Asia, or around the globe. So they are in discussion, and one of the orders or the statements he has shared at the moment were taking like owning Gaza, and with rebuilding Gaza, and with peace and all that, and saying that the people who Palestinians should move to Jordan or maybe Egypt or somewhere else, and they wouldn't have any right to come back on their own land. So these are the kind of things he is discussing, and he is trying to protect maybe Israel or not. We will see that in discussion, that how he is trying to protect Israel from these kind of statements or the orders, and how effective his policies are going to be in order to how we would be seeing them in future, and what kind of relationships are going to be in like US and Iran relationship are going to be, and how is going to take further how the situation is going to be in future as soon. So we will discuss that in detail. We do have a very prestigious guest with us at the moment. We do have Farah Hughes with us, and he is an activist and writer and independent anchor on YouTube. So he will be discussing that in further details, director of Palestinian Aid as well. So we will see how the situation is going on in Palestine at the moment, how the ceasefire deal is going on with Gaza, and because Hamas has said they won't return hostages this week. So how the situation is going to be in next week. So we will see that in different ways. So I'll move on to my guest, and we'll see what he says about it.
Invitation to the show. There's so much in what you've already said to really unpack. If I was going to start maybe with the ceasefire, I mean, Hamas has said that Israel is not holding up its end of the ceasefire agreement. Now, we've seen that in Lebanon. We've seen that there have been over 1,500 ceasefire violations, which includes, airstrikes, destruction of property, refusal to allow people to return to some of their villages in southern Lebanon, and indeed shooting unarmed civilians who were trying to return home. So they've broken every deal in their history to date. They sit down at the negotiating table. They come to an agreement. This agreement is between the Israeli state, which is acting on behalf of the Israeli people. This really is an agreement from Israeli society to the people in Gaza about how many trucks of aid will get in, how much medicine, how many tents, how many housing units, how much food. And they've already broken that. I saw statistics today that said there were supposed to be 20,000 tents to be allowed into Gaza to help house the 1.8 million people who are currently homeless, without shelter, their homes destroyed. Only 2,000 tents have got in. There was supposed to be something like 500 fuel trucks, and only 50 have got in. So the bad faith being shown by the Zionist state has created the conditions in which Hamas has said, if the whole ceasefire deal is about the kind of captives, hostage, prisoner exchanges on both sides, and the humanitarian, medical aid, and housing units for the Palestinians. So if both sides, on one side, breaks this agreement, then obviously, kind of to use Donald Trump's terms, like all bets are off the table. So Hamas has been forced into a position where it has solidly stood by the agreement and it's the Israelis who have broken the agreement, as they always do, and led us into yet another cul-de-sac with the potential threat of violence. When Donald Trump has said if all the Israelis held in Gaza are not released by 12 o'clock this Saturday, he has said, to quote him, all hell will break loose. This is the President of the United States of America threatening the people of Gaza with further violence and destruction and a continuation of the genocide and massacres and cutting off fuel and cutting off food and cutting off medicine. It's all implied in what he said, that basically he will just tell the Israelis to take their gloves off and restart the I was going to say war, but it's not a war. It's a genocide against the people in Gaza, because it's a war on the innocent. It's a war on the non-combatants. It's a war on the civil populations, every man, woman and child in Gaza. Now, if you want to move on to this idea about Trump owning Gaza, now, Trump is a businessman. He sees a business opportunity. I kind of talked to a friend the other day and I said, you know, when you listen to what he says about a forced relocation of the people of Palestine, he is like a hotelier. He is like a landlord who owns, he's already speaking like he owns the property. And it's like the Palestinians are tenants that he wants to throw out of the building so that he can renovate the building and charge higher rents for the new people coming in. He's talking about building a new kind of his dream of hotels, tourist apartments. It sounds like a Las Vegas by the sea. It sounds like he wants to recreate Monaco, where he could possibly have an offshore tax haven. So get rid of all the people in Gaza, rebuild it for a millionaire's paradise for maybe gambling and a tax haven, and have all the advantages that the rich people seek. They're not far from Europe. I mean, you can jump on a boat from Gaza, you can go to Cyprus, you can go to Greece, you can go to Turkey, you can cross the Mediterranean to France and Italy and Spain. I think what he envisages, reading in between the lines, is a playboy paradise. And when he says about there being room for people from the area, he's not talking about Gazans. He's talking about more illegal settlers settling and colonizing the land of Gaza. Now, I don't know if it's telephone calls or if he's actually going to see the King of Jordan, but there are machinations in place where he's going to sit down and pressurize the King of Jordan. Now, something like 70% of Jordanians are of Palestinian descent. These are the people who were forced out in 1948 and forced out again in 1967. So you had, if my memory is correct, that Yasser Arafat, when he started the Abideen, that was in Jordan, and they were then trying to liberate occupied Palestine from Jordan. Then you had Black September, when the Jordanians enforced what was then the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO. They forced them out of Jordan, and they ended up in Lebanon and in Beirut. Now, if you think about FAISA, the Greater Israeli Project, it talks about parts of Egypt, which is the Sinai. It talks about all of Jordan. It talks about parts of Lebanon and parts of Saudi Arabia. Now, obviously, the resistance group in Gaza have their own political response. I mean, they didn't surrender, they didn't give up, they didn't go away during 16 months of a genocide. It's all American bombs, all American armaments, all American planes. So the threat by Trump is not a valid threat to the resistance, because the resistance will continue to resist, and they've already said that they're not going to have any foreign troops occupying the land, be them American or Israeli, or these proposals that they may be Saudi Arabian, or they may be Qatari, or they may be from Egypt, or they may be from Bahrain. It doesn't matter where these guys are potentially from. They will be seen as doing the job of the Israelis of occupying Gaza if it comes to that, in a forced relocation of the people of Palestine. Now, if you look at Jordan and you look at Egypt, if Trump somehow manages to, he literally have to bomb the people in, because they're not going to go willingly. They'll have to create such a killing field that the people would have no choice but to leave, which is what happened in 48 and it's what happened in 67. And we're watching a potential Nakba right now. But if they go to the Sinai, then the Israelis will go, this is an Egyptian problem. It's an internal Egyptian security problem between the Palestinians and the Egyptians. If they go to Jordan, you're going to have the same thing. They're going to say, it's nothing to do with us. This is an internal dispute within the Jordanian borders. But as night follows day, the Palestinian resistance will continue to try and liberate occupied Palestine from both the Sinai and the West Bank. Now, this at a future date, Israeli governments may only last 4 or 5 years. They may be democratically changed. But the deep state and the Zionist dream of the greater Israel is on the long finger. It's taken them probably 100 years to get where they are now, and they are planning not for the next 5 years of the present government. They're planning for the next 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50 years. And as part of that, what they could do is, if this all comes to pass, which please God it doesn't, but if people end up in the Sinai and people end up in the Jordan and they try to liberate historic Palestine from these two areas, then the Israelis can say, we are the victims of Palestinian terrorism, we hold the Jordanian and Egyptian governments responsible. If they don't deal with the problem, we will. And that is the very pretext that they could use as part of the greater Israel project in 10 or 15 years, is to go into the Sinai and to totally occupy Jordan as part of the greater Israel project, and potentially then expel the Palestinians in a fourth Nakba, forcing the people of Jordan into another country in the region. So as Shakespeare said, many a slip between cup and lip. But when you look at the different scenarios, it's quite frightening. And when I thought the Palestinian people had, God forbid, suffered enough, along comes Trump with this idea of throwing everybody off their ancestral lands, treating them like cattle. The Israelis already did this in the last 16 months in the genocide. They bombed them from place to place to place to place. They use bombs the way a shepherd uses a dog to corral the people, corral the sheep, corral the cattle, and move them around. And I think very much that is what we may see going forward.
Thank you so much, Farah, for updating regarding the ceasefire deal, as well as a little bit on shedding the light regarding the Palestinian people, their resistance and evacuation plan of Trump. So we do have Dr. Anatollah and Darabi as well. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm really grateful for your time and effort. I would like to get your view on the Trump recent statement and the kind of executive orders he is passing at the moment, because from different dimensions he is under lots of criticism. Even the Western elite is also criticizing his different types of orders he is passing. I don't know under what mindset. So how do you see that he says that when he says all Palestinians should leave Gaza, and he is going to own it for whatsoever reason, to rebuild or whatsoever? And then do you think after 15 months of as well as the 75 years, more than 75 years of sacrifice, bloodshed and all that, a Palestinian would be happy to do that, or they would be able to do that, like they leave Gaza and he will be able to achieve whatever he wants to achieve at the moment? What kind of success rate do you see in his statements, in his orders, and kind of policies he is floating at the moment?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, thanks for having me on this program. This is very important, but I think we should Just saying about something that it is important is not enough. What is needed is we should try to grasp the sense in which it is important. Uh, so Trump is being talked about everywhere, and he is doing things which are important to many people in many ways. We should understand when we say that he's doing this or that, we should be clear in our minds in what senses, in what ways his things are important for us. Actually, uh, to look at this matter more at a more deeper, at a more proper way, the Trump phenomenon or the Trump as president, he is. It's very important, but it's more. Its importance is basically about the West created world order, and uh, Trump represents the same thing. He's not an aberration. He's not taking any other way. He's continuing the legacy of West. But he is creating ripples. He's shaking things, and that's why the other stakeholders are worried what he is doing. For example, he he is not building up alliances as the Democrats do. He Because his whole movement, the movement of the MAGA, the Make America Great Again, the cornerstone of that movement is that United States has been taken advantage of. People have taken advantage of United States, and we should focus on our economy. And people have had enough free rides on the basis of U.S. So this is what drives them, and they want to they want to focus on what they think is the American interest. I think that's not very important for us to discuss. Uh, for us, the important what's important is his statement about Gaza, and it's not merely a statement. We should understand it as it is. And if you let me proceed, I want to say something about this in some little detail. Uh, and to begin with, uh, let me say that from the day one, when Trump said in a casual way, sort of, "I will have Gaza," it's it's like sitting in a restaurant and you are being served with a menu, and you are saying, "Okay, I will go for korma. I will have korma." Like it was so cheap that I will have Gaza. Now the the first thing which I understood right from the beginning was that he is not joking. Trump is not an idiot, and what he said he means. So many people thought that what he is talking about, it is impractical. They thought he is just, these are just words, or it's just in a spur of movement. It's just something which he said. He didn't think before, but that's not right. It was well planned what he said, and that we have to understand that what he meant and what he said, and what he actually meant is that's very important. But I want to I want to uh, I want to bring out two important dimensions of this discussion. One is what did he say? What did he mean actually by this? That I will tell Faza. The other is, and that's more important, the what I call the thinkability. How can he think such a thing? You know, our there's always a limit. There's always a I mean, for everyone, for intellectual thought or for popular thought, there's always a limit. What can you think about? So many things are simply unthinkable. But if a person says that I will buy a land or I will have it, a land populated by people, how how could he think of it? I mean, this is a legitimate question, and the question should be raised. How is it a thinkable thought? I mean, see, we can't be talking about or not talk. We can't be thinking about which is not thinkable in its own time. For example, this time the artificial intelligence or the computer or these things, these were unthinkable 200 years before. Nobody would think of it. It was beyond thinking. So how could Trump think of this in the first place? Uh, I think we have to address that question, and that will that will bring out the whole thing. We can then understand the whole thing once we address this question. And this question, once we address it, it brings out the truth. The truth is that Trump is not he is not the first person to say such a thing. Now, let us let's not make it just Gaza. Let us say he's saying about having something or buying a thing which is populated, and he just wants to buy it or develop it in a tourist destination or whatever. Uh, Now, the question is, as I said, it's a very legitimate question that how can one think of it? I say that Trump is not the first person. This is what what the modern civilization is. This is what has been happening since the last 500 years. And equation, we often talk of the race and we say white and black, whites, blacks, or whites, non-whites. I will keep it brief. I won't go into the details, but this has to be said that race by itself is not a category. It is a sort of historical formation. It has been formed in the process of history. When someone dominates someone, then they define the domination. They define the power structure in which one is the dominator. One is who has dominated. The other is who is dominated. This power structure, in this power structure, they use different markers. They use the marker of religion, language, color, but this itself has not given rise to that power structure. The power structure has basically come into being in the first place through the process of history, through straight away when you conquer some people, when you dominate some people. When 500 years before, when the European people went to Africa, got the slaves, dominated them, they were the conquerors, the other were the conquered, a power relation developed, a power structure developed, which we later came to, we later labeled it as whites and blacks. But in fact, it's not that white, black. These are important in their own ways, and religion is important in its own way. But the main defining thing and the main causative thing, something which has caused this, is basically a proper, a simple act of conquering. They conquered them, and they became, they since they happen to be white, so the European white man became the conqueror, and the European white man then went on with the, after slave trade, it was then industrial revolution, then capitalism, then imperialism, then conquering the whole world, then British Empire, and it is still going on. Now the conquerors themselves, they regard themselves as humans, and they regard the others as either non-humans or subhumans or things. So the people in Gaza, or the Gaza, is considered, it's a thing, because in the power structure of the current day and age, in that power structure, they are the dominated, and they are the subjugated, they are the conquered, so they are regarded as simply things. Now what Trump said, if you go through the and this is in popular literature, this everywhere, if you go through what Winston Churchill said, same thing. When Winston Churchill, when they took Palestine in British mandate, and one of the ministers of Winston Churchill, William Peel, he was, at so many times he was asking Winston Churchill, how can we manage it? How can we manage to create a Jewish state there? How can we manage it? How will Arabs tolerate it? And even I should tell you, when they agreed with the Al Saud, the Ibn Saud, Al Saud, the Saudi dynasty, the current founder of the current Saudi dynasty, Ibn Saud himself told these people, Winston Churchill and British government, he told them that Arabs and Jews cannot live together. Don't do this. He himself said this. So this was something very impossible they were aiming at. But Churchill told him that no, we will go about it and we will do it. And Peel once said, William Peel asked him, shall we do all this on the basis of strength, on the basis of arms, and using our arms and ammunition, using our material strength? Shall we do all this? Then Winston Churchill said something very important. He said, I don't recognize, I don't admit the right of dog. I don't admit the perpetual, permanent right of dog over the manger. Manger is a trough of food and drink, on which animals come and they feed. Winston Churchill was saying that if a dog is feeding on a manger, the dog does not have permanent rights on that. It can be replaced. So he was then referring to the replacement of red Indians in America and blacks in Australia. So he was saying that they could be replaced by a higher grade race. So these are not considered humans. So that is why when Trump said this, otherwise it is unthinkable. It's unthinkable that people are living somewhere and you say, I will have them. But he said because he considers them as things. And it is not he personally or just he. It is this dominant civilization in which we are living. Here, the white supremacist, the European man considers himself human, and others are all non-human or subhuman. This is the configuration. This is the reality. This is the truth about the global power structure. And it was because of this that Trump said this. Now, my other point was about what did Trump say? What did he mean? I will come to it perhaps when you come back to me again, because Fry is also waiting. He might have to say something. So I will leave it to him, and inshallah, I will come back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Farah, what are your thoughts? What Dr. Saab has said about the Trump, what Trump has said. But apart from that, how do you see the role of Hamas? Do you think Hamas would let this happen? Because at the moment they are in ceasefire deal, and obviously deal happens when somebody has some power or something like that. So how do you see this fact? How would they deal with, for example, how America and Israel would deal with Hamas, for instance, in order to evacuate Gaza, for instance? Do you think they would be able to do it in 15-16 months after so much bombing and all that? They had to do kind of a ceasefire deal in the end with Hamas, and now obviously there is kind of deadlock coming up as well for this week when the hostages are supposed to be transferred or something. So how do you see this fact of resistance from Hamas or any other group over there? Do you think the people of Gaza would let them do that? And how about the a ceasefire deal regarding Lebanon, because it was supposed to end soon as well, and there is so many rumors or so much going on in Lebanon as well about that. So what would you like to share about it?
I think what I would like to say is I totally agree with the analysis and the conclusion that the two doctors made. I think he's made the perfect point that it's white racism, it's white supremacism, it's the values of Western society that are responsible for many of the ills of today. If we look briefly at the colonization of the murder of tens of millions of people on the American continent, the slavery of millions of others from Africa, the fact that Britain once upon a time ruled 25% of the land mass of the world, and they ruled over, I think it's 122, or they ruled over every country in the world bar 22. So when you talk about the supremacism, this dehumanization of the other, it fits in fully with the Zionist, supremacist, racist, and I believe increasingly now fascist agenda. You cannot kill tens of thousands of people in Gaza, men, women, and children. You cannot starve them. You cannot blow up their hospitals. You cannot deprive them of water. You cannot have people who need medicine for blood pressure, for heart disease, people who need dialysis. You cannot refuse all these people these basic human rights, the basic human dignity of being a human being. So you have to demonize, you have to dehumanize, and you have to treat the people as non-human, as subhuman. I mean, it was the Untermensch, I think the Germans described the non-Aryan race. So you have to dehumanize people before you can massacre them. You have to say that in Afghanistan, the American troops referred to the local people as ragheads. British racists called people from Pakistan Pakis. There's a whole industry from government through the media into the normalization within society of racism. So you have racism and you have fascism, which seem to go hand in hand, and then you attach them to the supremacist mindset. Then you use the divide and conquer that the immigrants are coming, they're taking all the houses, they're taking all the school places, they're taking all the jobs, they're grooming your children for sexual purposes. So you demonize the people that you wish to destroy. And that has been proven, as the doctor alluded to, throughout history. Now, when I was listening to the doctor, what came into my mind was might is right. The only reason why the Europeans were able to conquer everybody was the Spanish had guns when they went to Latin America and the Caribbean, and the people had wooden swords. The reason that Israel is so strong in West Asia is purely because of their air force. You've seen the tank graves in Lebanon. You have seen the soldiers being flown out in body bags, very reminiscent of Vietnam. But it's their air superiority that they can bomb Beirut, they can bomb Damascus, they can bomb Gaza, they can bomb anywhere within the region, and they did indeed bomb Iran. It's their air superiority that allows them to have this barbaric idea that they can go anywhere at any time and murder anyone for any reason. So when you look at how far Israeli society has moved to the right, there is a complete indoctrination through the education system that these people are taught they are the chosen people, the same way the Germans were taught they are the master race. They're told the land's been given to them by God. If you watch some of the social media stuff, they see these guys going up, this is our land, we're taking over your house, we're taking over your land, we're stealing your cattle, this is ours. But this is rapine, this is greed, this is these people, because they're not held accountable. If there's the reason why we have civil law in society is to stop a thug walking into somebody's house, beating them up, stealing their car, throwing them out of their house, brutalizing their family. Civil law exists to protect civil society. When there is no law, because there's no accountability, then these people in Israel, with this supremacist white European colonial mindset, feel that everything is theirs, and to touch the hair on the head of one Jewish Zionist will be faced with a murderous campaign of brutality. So they've demonized the Palestinian people. They have said countless times that Palestinians embrace death, they embrace martyrdom, and we love life. When actually nearly everything I believe now is said in the West, when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to Palestine, when it comes to Iran, when it comes to Syria, it's all projection. What they claim their enemies are doing is in fact what they are doing. There were no 40 beheaded babies. There were no rapes by the resistance groups in occupied southern Palestine on the 7th of October. We've heard Yoav Gallant come out and say that they did indeed invoke the Hannibal Doctrine, and that there was American tanks and American machine guns that were responsible for many of the deaths that day that took place in illegally occupied Palestine. Now, we talked about Lebanon, we talked about the ceasefire and stuff. I really just want to maybe mention the resistance groups, Qassam brigades, but also the PFLP and his Islamic Jihad that's in Gaza. Trump can threaten whatever he wants. The Israelis can bomb whoever they want. But in the end, it'll be the resistance in Gaza who will decide whether or not they will continue the resistance. It's the resistance in Gaza who are the only form of protection. We are witnessing a genocide, but if it wasn't for the resistance, I personally believe that the genocide would be on a larger scale, because there is this ideology, this greater Israel plan of expelling all the Palestinians in historic Palestine, in Gaza and the West Bank, and completely taking over. And before Trump got into power on the 6th of January or whenever that was, he actually said, I'm paraphrasing him, that Israel is such a small place, it must expand in order to give it the opportunity to grow economically, etc., etc., etc. So It'll be up to the resistance, and they've already stated clearly that they're not going anywhere. It's their land. They're prepared to fight and die on their land for their rights, for their dignity, and for their people. And don't forget that everyone in the resistance is a Palestinian from Gaza who, in my mind, are a defensive organisation that is there to protect the Palestinian people from this threat that they've had. And just finally, like people talk about 1948, I understand that. That's when the Israeli state was born in terrorism. It expands through terrorism. It's a terrorist state. But if you want to look at the expulsion of Palestinians from their land by Zionism, go back to 1902, go back to the Jewish National Fund, buying up land in Palestine, then removing the farm workers and the people who lived on that land. They make it at that time, because Israel didn't exist, a Jewish Zionist cooperative. So from 1902, you saw the seeds of apartheid being sown in Palestine by the Zionist movement.
Thank you, Farah, for sharing your viewpoint on that. Dr. Sab, I'll move on to you and would like to ask what you were trying to convey regarding the statement of Trump, what it meant. And besides that, I would like to ask as well that how do you see the do you think that Israel or US would be be in all-out war with Iran, or maybe they are trying to attack their nuclear sites over there, or any plans of this kind? Do you see that coming, or it's not going to happen? It's just kind of a word they are throwing, or discussions they are doing, or something like that. So how do you see that?
See, about what Trump said and meant, I want to say that this is Trump was making some very important political statement. Actually, two statements. One at a more fundamental level, and other relating to the current situation. The first thing which I said was at more fundamental level is something I could understand, and I will in a moment refer to the supreme leader of Islamic Revolution, Imam Khamenei, that how he exactly understood what Trump said, a one-to-one communication, absolutely one-to-one. Now, you might have perhaps read 2-3 months back. I wrote a small piece, a blog, and I posted it on my Twitter, X. I said the idea of Israel has basically failed, and those who conceived it and those who implanted Israel, they may have to rethink. I said this, and I left it to those whose job it is to rethink Israel, because in the formation, in the establishment of Israel, there were some very vital conditions which were the existential conditions for Israel. One of that was that the neighborhood of Israel should be very compliant, should be very obedient, and Israel should have a very peaceful existence there. Because we must always, this is a very common sense thing. Common sense means this is very this is very apparent. One can, it's very easy. Israel in that region, if Jews wanted a homeland, it could be elsewhere. But in that region, as I earlier referred to, a person, Ibn Saud, who was a British, they cultivated the Saud family, and gave them the power of, gave them the Saudi Arabia. But even that person said that Jews and Muslims, it will be difficult, can't live together. So Israel in that region, it's very uh, uh, it's unsafe, challenging for Israel itself. So the Zionists agreed. The Zionists they together with the British Empire, Israel was established with this condition that the neighborhood will be safe. And since the resistance movement has ended that, the neighborhood is no more safe. Although Israel has killed so many, but the neighborhood, and uh, I spoke about it more than once, that the strategic reality remains unchanged. Israel had so many tactical wins, but the strategic reality remains unchanged, and that reality is the geopolitical environment of Israel, which continues to be hostile and not friendly as it was supposed to be. As it was proven in 1967 war, it was proven that yes, Israel is the superpower. Nobody can. Israel has a. Nobody can dominate Israel in that region. It was proven. But now, since this has changed, I had said that the idea of Israel needs to be rethought. And to be honest, I was in a sense, I was thinking that perhaps the leaders of West may think of some other thing other than Israel. It's simply that the people, the Jews who were born there, they will be there. But the Zionist apartheid regime, which is constituted by people who do not belong to that area, even who are not even born there, they are accidentally they are Jews, but they could be anything. It's a sort of mafia who created the Zionist state in the first place. But Trump's statement, when he said we will take Gaza, Trump's statement meant this thing to me, that they are still determined to keep Israel there. They are not. They are rethinking, but they are not rethinking to the extent of replacing Israel, but they are definitely thinking of, they are determined to keep Israel there. And you can link the change in Syria, which happened some months before, that was again in the direction of creating the friendly geopolitical environment for Israel, which is absolutely a necessity for it. Because uh, you see, Israel is when anything happens, the people in America, the governments, the British or European even, they say yes, Israel has a right to defend. So there are so many countries in this world, but for no country, defending itself is the only job. I mean, defense is one of the things that you should defend your borders. Every country has an army. But Israel is unusual. It's all about defense. It's all about defending itself. And its army is called what no other army is called. It is called Israeli Defense Forces, IDF. Every other army is US Army, British Army, Indian Army, Pakistani. Nowhere the army is the defense force. It is defense forces. So Israel, because Israel is a sort of military base. It has a military objective, so it has to defend itself. So I was saying that this friendly geopolitical environment is an absolute necessity for its very existence. So what did Trump say then? Trump said that Israel is going to stay. And what did the leader of Islamic revolution, Imam Khamenei, said? just 3 days back, 4 days back. He said Zionist state is a gang. He used the word gang. He said Zionist state is a gang. It has to go. Finish. It was one-to-one communication. What Trump said, Khamenei replied, and this was the right reply. Just forget about the small kids like Pakistan and what they say, or other Muslim countries. They are just small kids and jokers. But I'm saying this was exactly what Trump said, and he was given a proper reply by the leader Imam Khamenei. So this is as I said, what Trump said. This was one aspect and more fundamental aspect. The other aspect is that, as I said, what he said was absolutely planned. There's no doubt in it, and he has been since making more elaborating the idea how it will happen, what we will do. Now, what Trump has said, he has given he has articulated the ultimate position. He has said that Israel has to be safeguarded, and if Palestinians, if there are Palestinians in Gaza, they have to be 100% neutralized. They have to live as 100% neutralized population. No resistance at all. If there is resistance, there won't be people. That's it. He has given the ultimate. I mean, this is how Trump works. For example, in Mexico and China and Canada also, he brought up tariffs, and now then he has engaged in negotiations. Then he will ask them, give me this, give me this. Okay, if he gets what he wants, he won't impose tariffs. Similarly, if he gets what he wants, that 100% neutralization of Gaza as a resistance force, if he gets it, okay, they will live there. If not, yes, the defense of Israel is so important to us that we will banish, we will replace the people, and we will relocate them. So he has actually articulated the final political position. Usually, political positions are articulated stage by stage, but he has articulated the ultimate thing, that if it does not happen, we won't hesitate doing this. So this was what Trump said and meant. So I have some more things to say, but if you have time and if you want to go to Fra and then come back to me, then I will say on my turn. Otherwise, I will continue. Please tell me what do you want?
We're just left with like 5-6 minutes, so I can divide it in 3 minutes each. So, anything you would like to share, or Farah would like to share first? Farah, how would you like to conclude the whole discussion in 3 minutes? In the sense, like, whatever your thoughts are, how do you see the future of West Asia now? And the world itself, and for America, for instance. So, what are your thoughts overall on the whole situation because of the kind of Trump mindset and the kind of policies he is bringing up and the kind of criticism he is facing and situation going on? So, what are your conclusive thoughts on the current situation of West Asia and Lebanon and resistance forces, Yemen, and all that? So, anything important you would like to highlight, I would prefer that.
Now, just as a furtherance to the conversation we're already having, I'd like to maybe just highlight the fact that Israel is a white European settler colonization, a part of the Levant. Part of its real.
Sorry to cut you here. Just 1 second. Sorry to cut you here. And under what law do you think U.S. is trying to do all the things he is doing in West Asia, for instance? What internet? Because he is also sanctioning ICC as well as International Criminal Court for whatsoever reasons. We know that. So how do you see that as well? Just in case you would like to add anything on that, along with what you were saying.
Okay, well, I was just saying Israel exists to divide the Ummah. They use sectarianism between the Sunni and the Shia. That's fomented in order to keep people fighting each other instead of fighting this foreign alien invasion. There will be no peace in West Asia so long as the Zionist state exists, as it does as a fascist, racist entity. Joe Biden said 30 years ago, if Israel didn't exist, the Americans would have to invent it. That's all you need to know about Israel and why it's there. It's there to protect Western interests in West Asia. Uh, what you were talking about Trump, and basically you're touching on international law and under what law is he going to do all this. Let's be honest. America murdered millions of people in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos. They murdered millions of people in Iraq and Libya and Afghanistan and Syria and many other places. If you believe in international law and you believe that the Americans or the Europeans actually believe and uphold international law, you're not paying attention.
Thank you, Farah. Dr. Saab, we have just 3 minutes left. If you can conclude your viewpoint on how would you like to conclude?
Yes. I want to say Trump has, as I told you at the start, that he has not basically said anything very new. This is he's representing something, and that's what he has said. But there is a problem with Trump and with the West. The problem is Trump has basically taken a leaf from the playbook. He has threatened, he has warned, and they know that threatening and warning works because they are in a supremacist position, and these things work. But what they miss is one thing, that after doing so much, I mean, you just go to, this is what, 2025. Yeah, you just go back 100 or 125 years back. You can see how an organically related process, integrated process, there was to create a world after the collapse of Ottoman Empire. Everything was set in place. Everything was set in place. And when you do things and then you say, okay, well done, now I'm relaxed, I'm relaxed. So the West was relaxing after doing everything. All of a sudden, Imam Khomeini came and the whole thing was absolutely, it was torn asunder. It was uh, I mean, whatever had been done, it was the beginning of undoing that. And in that, I must say this point. This needs to be elaborated and said in some detail. But I will say only, I will just mention it here, that West and Muslims, they have a long history of interacting with each other. West has known Islam for long. What they did not know, and what has for the first time emerged, is the Tashayyu version of Islam, is the Ahl Bayt version of Islam, is the Hussaini version of Islam. This Islam is not about empires and conquering one country after another. It is about moral principles. Stand your word, stand by your principle, and whatever happens. And the greatest example of Imam Hussain is the live example. It inspires every single person, every single sensible person in this world, that what sacrifice, to what extent he went simply for a principle. So this revolution was brought by Imam Khomeini, which was linked to it, and it is basically about not creating, not establishing an empire, which Iran could have done in all these, I think, 46 years or whatever now, Iran could have done, but it was not Iran did not do it. It has stood for a principle. Palestine is a matter of principle for Iran. It's not a neighboring. It does not neighbor Iran. It does not border Iran. So it's a matter of principle. So when Imam Khamenei said that the Zionist state will go, it will go. And whatever Trump is saying, I'm 100% sure, and I go on record that it will not mature. Nothing, Gaza will not be emptied, the resistance will increase. And it is because a new thing has uh, entered the arena, has happened.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. I'm really grateful for your time, and Farah for your time as well. I'm really grateful and really honored to have you both on the show. And to the viewers, I would just say, no matter what happens, we should stand with peace and justice, and we should spread love, humanity, and justice principles around the globe, because we all need to stand with each other, no matter who is oppressed and who is being oppressed. So we need to stand against the tyrant rulers around the globe who are taking the rights of innocent Palestinian, Kashmiris, and many more around the globe. So we need to think about it. That's our moral, ethical, legal right to do. Thank you so much for watching.